Thank you so much. It's so good to be back again at the BIS show. So, I'm going to take you all into my world today, a world where there are no retakes, where your subjects don't take direction from you, and where every scene is literally unscripted. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world of wildlife filmmaking. I'm Aishwarya Sridhar, a National Geographic explorer, a wildlife filmmaker, a Canon EOS influencer, and the founder of Bambi Studios, which is a full-service environmental storytelling production company headquartered in Mumbai. So when it comes to wildlife filmmaking, for me, it's always about telling stories that connect people to the natural world. Stories that transcend beyond pretty visuals and really capture emotions onto the screen. And to capture and bring emotions onto the big screen, you really need to be working with a set of gear that is very alive and responsive to the world that you're filming. That's where the Canon Cinema EOS has really transformed the way in which I tell my stories and my work as well in general. So I'd like to highlight that with two specific projects actually. The first one being a drama on Indian leopards. It's a Bollywood-inspired drama on Indian leopards. Now, I said drama and not a documentary for a reason, actually, and I'll tell you all why. So when it comes to leopards, right, what is the first thing that comes to your mind in terms of habitats? Anyone? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I tell you leopards? Speed. In terms of habitats, I'm asking. Forests, the African savannas, maybe, Rocky Mountains, but certainly not a city, right? Even if it's a city, it'll be Bombay City because Sanjay Gandhi National Park is right next door. But what about Jaipur? Does Jaipur ever feature? Because historically, if you look at it, we've always associated Jaipur with, fortresses, palaces, Rajput kings and queens, etc. But never really with leopards. But for the longest time, these big cats have been sharing the home in Jaipur with their human neighbors, seamlessly blending into the pulse of the city. So I set out with my team to tell the story of these urban leopards in a way as when a Bollywood film is unfolding right in the heart of Rajasthan. I'd like to share with you all the poster. So the film is called Leopard Dynasty, The Rise of Rana. It follows the journey of one young male leopard named Rana from innocence to dominance as he challenges his own father for the throne, basically. So it's what you say a Game of Thrones meets Bollywood meets natural history filmmaking. It's about legacy. The story is about ambition, about regal royal heritage, set in a jungle kingdom that's ruled by teeth, claws, and sacrifice. So I'd like to share with you all a sneak peek basically into the first 2 minutes of the film. It's a co-production between Terramater Studios in Austria, Oregon Films in France, my company Bambi in India, and supported by Arte France, which is our main channel partner, along with Service Television and Anil Agarwal Foundation by Vedanta. So you all have the first 2 minutes of the film playing right now.
It's a cold winter morning. The leopard queen is missing, feared, dead. She's left behind her 2-year-old son, Rana. In his mother's care, Rana was shielded from the realities of life in the forest. But now, she's gone. With only his wits to guide him, he must find his way alone. In a land laced with the legacy of Rajput kings and queens, the forest of Chalana sits in the heart of the city of Jaipur. It was once the hunting grounds of the Rajputs. Now only their fortresses and palaces remain. Today, leopards rule Jalana. Does Rana have what it takes to not only survive, but to become king?
Thank you so much. So the film is scheduled for release very soon in India. It's already had its European release. And it took us 1.5 years to document the story of Rana. My team and I, my DOP, Kenneth Lawrence, is sitting right here. So we were looking at, bringing a very rare and intimate glimpse into the lives of Indian leopards to the viewers, in fact, because till now we have always looked and seen movies that are, docudramas on tigers, but never on leopards. So that's where we thought, we could fit this story and position it. And it's told also in a way in which each individual leopard has its own character. We have characterization, so I didn't want to portray them as faceless predators, but instead I wanted to showcase them as a son, as a ruler, as a warrior, as a survivor, and somewhere in between all of this also celebrate this unique and peaceful coexistence that these predators share with the human residents of Jaipur, because that kind of relationship almost seems mythical in today's world. So to bring the Bollywood style of filmmaking to the forefront, we used a lot of slow motions. We shot the film primarily on a C300 Mark III and on the R5C. So we ended up shooting in high speed rates, shooting at 60 FPS, 120 FPS, and thankfully the C300 Mark III is able to shoot 4K RAW at 120 FPS. So we relied heavily on that to get those amazing slow motion dramatic shots, along with the use of gimbals. So I know in terms of bringing cranes and jibs to a forest is a little bit difficult. Bureaucracy, red tape, etc. So the cheapest alternative that we had with us was a gimbal. So we tried to replicate those amazing GSS kind of shots, but on a gimbal. So we mounted the R5C, as well as very recently we've also started filming, the second part to this particular story. So for that we used the C50 on the gimbal, and the result was sheer magic. So I'll start with a small introduction scene to our main villain, in fact, of the film, that's Bahadur. So you'll get to see a little bit of the Bollywood drama slow motion in that, and then I'll follow that up with our gimbal shots as well, a sneak peek of that.
At the heart of Jalana stands the ancient royal watchtower. Guarded by the Leopard King. Despised by all. Challenged by none. He spares no one. The mighty Bahadur, Rana's father. For 6 long years, Bahadur has ruled this land, a reign marked by terror and tyranny.
I've tried to introduce him like Gabbar Singh of Sholay with just the footsteps and the reflection, etc. Now moving on to the way in which we've done gimbal. So this is a very small, 2-3 seconds of the gimbal shots that we have done with regards to long lens gimbal. Just have a look at this. And this is completely shot on the C50. So very fluid, immersive shots that really bring out the feel and the beauty of the location and of the residents who live in these habitats. And that was the whole motto of pushing boundaries and changing the way in which we even visualize the story. And the best part of actually shooting leopards in Jalana was that we could film during the monsoons. All other tiger sanctuaries basically shut down during the monsoon season, but Jalana remains open. But despite the fact that you're shooting in monsoon, it's very pretty pictures, very cinematic green background that you end up getting. But there were a lot of challenges. A camera, thankfully, was very rugged. Both the C300 Mark III, the C400 very recently that we used, the R5C, very rugged, weatherproof, weather-sealed cameras. But we, on the other hand, were not so weather-sealed or not so waterproof as well. So we ended up actually, meeting quite a few challenges, including I ended up falling in a ditch. In fact, it was very heavy rainfall one day, and the road had almost washed away. And my driver heard alarm calls. He thought, it'll be wonderful. We get to see leopards in rain. And he drove straight ahead without thinking that the road had actually completely washed away. So a few seconds down that road, and the car literally stood like this. The camera got banged up, got soaked. Nothing happened to the R5C. My head, on the other hand, was not so, weather-sealed or rugged. It ended up taking a pretty big bang. But thankfully, I didn't end up with concussions. Thank God for that. And 2 hours later, I resumed shoot. But nevertheless, despite falling into a ditch, having very overcast, cloudy, broody skies, the dynamic range that we ended up getting on the camera was just stunning. We had very little light seeping to the forest floor because most of the times the canopy used to be so dense that the sunlight, even those brief periods that we had, never really reached the forest floor. And most of the times, leopards being nocturnal end up coming towards twilight. So you really need a equipment which can perform very well during low light. And that's what the C50, the C400 lived up beautifully, even the C300 Mark III. So I'm showing you all footage right now from the C50 that's been shot. We have pushed the ISO to 8,000 and even 12,800, and yet we've been able to get almost noise-free, beautiful stuff, even with no problem to the focus as well. So there have been cameras that have been really good partners for us, even when you're shooting an elusive animal like this, which usually loves coming out during the dark. And I'll also like to share some monsoon footage. This is a sneak peek again from the film. So again, very low light, but no matter what the challenges came our way, even though we were shooting in dense, heavy downpour, very low light, darkness, whatever it may be, but we ended up getting footages that were very, very cinematic. So when this film was all about, regal ambition and power and legacy and, a lot of grandeur and drama, I was simultaneously working on another film that stood in very stark contrast compared to this world. Now that follows the story of wildlife trafficking, in fact. It talks about, going undercover in the pet markets of the world and spotlighting one particular species, which is the Indian star tortoise. It's called the fading star. The film goes deep down into the dark underbelly of wildlife trade. And the Indian star tortoise happens to be one of the world's most traded tortoises. Okay, and the story came across to me in a very funny way actually on YouTube. So these tortoises are trafficked because people love to see them and keep them in their home as pets. So they're worshipped all across Asia and even India. They're also kept as pets because you see the star-shaped markings on their carapace. It's very beautiful. And they're also revered in several parts of Asia. So this is a person's house in Thailand. So all these images have been shot on the R5C, in fact. So they're trafficked live with their limbs glued to their body with adhesive tape and smuggled to Southeast Asia, Europe, and the United States. And they're poached from the wild, and they're crammed into these suitcases and cardboard boxes, literally trafficked live in very horrifying and deplorable conditions. So we went right into the markets of Bangkok to be able to uncover this story with the help of a National Geographic Society grant, and that began in 2022. And here is the trailer of the film. A war is raging in the natural world. A greedy, brutal battle. Turning animals into commodities. In a year, how many times can you supply stock?
For lifetime.
Stuffed into suitcases and bundled into shopping bags. Destined for a life as an exotic pet. Every year, thousands of Indian star tortoises endure horrific conditions as they are trafficked live from India and Sri Lanka. Their destination, Southeast Asia, Europe, and the United States.
They're not elephants, they're not rhinos, they're tortoises. And a lot of people just still don't see that as a priority. But it should be a priority. It's organized crime.
My name is Aishwarya Sridhar. I am an investigative filmmaker. I am headed on a 3,000-mile journey from the scrub forests of my home country, India, to the wildlife black markets of Bangkok.
We are in a very tight community. Outsiders are not always welcome.
My mission is to try and uncover the criminal syndicates behind the most smuggled tortoise in the world, the Indian star.
So the numbers are dwindling fast. It can easily slip into the endangered category.
अच्छे जो बिग बॉस हैं, उन्होंने भी गुप्त रूप में सेवा रख रखी है और आज वो भी आनंद में है।
ถ้ามันเป็นผู้ค้ารายใหญ่ขวางเขาอะครับอาจจะมีความเสี่ยงในการที่จะใช้ชีวิตแหละครับ
Who are the breeders?
रखे थे बेचने को 400 था।
Who are the traffickers? How can we save the star of the forest? Thank you so much. This wouldn't have been possible without the Nat Geo Society's grant and, of course, Canon's support. So, for this particular film, we have been, we've had to navigate different worlds. Okay, right from being with ex-poachers in South India to talking to law enforcement agency officials to, looking at rescue and rehabilitation centers, to actually physically going undercover, posing sometimes as interested buyers or wide-eyed tourists to be able to gain access to the story. And while most of the safer setups and the safer scenarios, we could use a larger camera setup like a C300 Mark III, most of the run and gun shooting that was done was on the R5C because we really needed a camera which was lightweight, which was compact, which of course met all the broadcast specs because this film is designed and destined for television. So I needed a camera that can deliver at least 4K RAW and still at the same time, have a good dynamic range, be able, also is Netflix approved. And all those specifications, the R5C met beautifully. When we were in Bangkok, in fact, and we had to be, we had to ensure that we weren't noticed because one, we're in a foreign country. You are in a place where you're tracking an illegal trade. You don't want people to know that you're actually come there to uncover your secrets. So I really needed the R5C and basically a camera setup which could really go unnoticed. And the R5C did just that. It became my most trusted companion during the entire shoot. And we were able to get access to locations and to people and to characters who would have not opened up had maybe we come with a larger camera setup. So the R5C was really, a blessing for me. I was able to really, tell this story in the best possible way. And I'd like to show how Bangkok's slight introduction from the film to the Bangkok part actually. My search for the bigger players takes me to Bangkok. Every city has its secrets. Bangkok is no different. For years, wildlife trafficking has grown in its underbelly. The city is not only a destination for wildlife products, but also a transit hub. Smugglers park their goods here before shipping them to China and other countries. Jasmine, not her real name, is a freelance journalist who has investigated the black markets of this region for years. She's going to help me get in. For her safety, we're disguising her identity.
So look, about Indian star tortoises. When it comes to wildlife story, it's very hard to crack because, they are in a very tight community and the outsider are not always welcome. In Thailand, for a long time, they used to do it offline, right? But now the black market has moved to online. Let me show you this.
So it's basically use of dark web or?
No, they don't use dark web. They use social media, mostly Facebook. They can create a,
Oh, it's Facebook.
a public group or like sometimes private group. For example, this one. It says, all star tortoises, including Indian, Myanmar, and Sri Lankan. But at the end of the group, it says no trade. But what they do is, if they see something that they like, they just contact that person directly.
So they kind of use that like a cover basically.
Exactly.
So this was a very sneak peek into the introduction of the Bangkok scene. And again, most of the times we were filming in 8K on the R5C here because we also needed to get, the reach and sometimes to even look into what was happening. So we ended up shooting in 8K, which will help us get that ability to crop in post later, which was amazing on the R5C. And I really loved its hybrid capabilities because we also could end up shooting stills. And so one small compact camera that delivers both excellent broadcast grade video as well as photos. And we had only one camera person for this entire shoot. So Kenneth was the camera person while I was on camera. So I had to make it look as if, it was multiple camera angles, multiple cameras being, trained on the scene when we were shooting. All the while, there was only one person handling the entire shoot. And that was, again, a huge challenge, but we tried to work around to the best possible, budget that we had. And we ended up getting a film that will release very shortly in India on national television. So the experience while filming this particular documentary was very intense, emotionally very overwhelming because, of course, there were moments of fear, there were moments of frustration, there were moments of safety concerns, but more than ever, I think there have been moments of where we just didn't want to carry on filming because the scene in front of us was really so pathetic and so heart-wrenching for us. Especially at Bangkok when we went, at Chatuchak Weekend Market, which is one of the world's largest pet markets, you're seeing wild animals which are supposed to be roaming out there in the wild, kept in tiny cages under horrifying conditions. So you're seeing a meerkat, a capybara, okay, coatis. Of course, the Indian star was also on sale. So seeing all of that, I really wanted to make sure this documentary puts across the message that these animals are not supposed to be kept in your living room or your bedroom or in your garden. They're meant to be out there in the wild, living free and remaining forever free, in fact. So the film is a wake-up call to policymakers, to change makers, to the government, to each and every person, who believes that keeping exotic pets is a status symbol. No, it's not. If you truly love them and care for them, let them be as free as possible in the wild. So with whichever stories that I tell, be it, blue chip natural history films like The Leopard or impact documentaries like this one, each of them demand something different from me as a filmmaker and from my team as well. And at that time, the Canon Cinema EOS lineup has always ended up delivering not just great footage, but also it grants me the creative freedom. The freedom to be able to chase a leopard at twilight without thinking about focus. The freedom to go undercover, to shoot in places where, you don't have to be worried about being recognized or being, intervene in terms of, finding out that you're actually filming, to be able to go silently and get broadcast great footage. The freedom to be able to shoot intimate moments in the lives of endangered species, even during low light, without having to worry about compromising cinematic quality. So for me, my cameras are not just creative tools. I see them as my creative partners. Partners that really help me push boundaries, that help me dream bigger and better, and to be able to tell stories that really resonate with audiences sitting very far away from the places where these films were made. As storytellers, I believe that our responsibility is to create a bridge between the human and the animal world, to be able to tell stories that really evoke emotions and inspire grassroots level change. And with the Cinema EOS lineup, I've been able to bring to the forefront wild stories with authenticity, with artistry, and most importantly, to create an impact for me. Thank you so much. And I open it up for Q&A. If any one of you all are interested to ask me any questions, you're more than welcome. Thank you so much. Any questions? Yes, please.
They would not allow you to openly shoot the whatever activities they were doing. So how did you manage to hide the camera? Did you hide it first?
No, we didn't. So undercover, when we went, of course, the cameras were hidden. But when we were filming in Bangkok as well, places where we could actually film, since the setup was so small, right? And the R5C literally sits in your hand. It almost looks as if it is a photo camera. So you can just easily pass off as a YouTuber or just as a person who's interested in just photographing Bangkok, who's come from India as a wide-eyed tourist, and people don't object much. So that was a plus point of the camera.
Even there is a animal market in Churchgate.
Yes, we've also done the Crawford market as well. So in the film, you'll also see we've done undercover sections at Crawford.
Great work.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Anyone? Either it became too technical or it became too less. Don't be scared. You can ask me any questions. If you don't want me to answer on the mic, and come down and interact, that's fine. I'll do one thing. I'll come down and interact with you all. I think that's better. Now you all can tell me if you all have any questions. I would say it's been exciting, adventurous, and I hope it's impactful in some way.
Yeah, it actually is. Really, really loved your work and the way you presented everything, including the capturing of all the animals and all the vulnerable moments of that. Really, really loved it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
What are the lens kits that you used along with the camera?
So we used a range of EF and RF lenses. So the leopard film was mainly shot on a EF 200-400 along with an RF 100-500. Then for the wide angles, we used RF and EF 70-200, 16-35, 15-35 RF, 24-105 RF. So a combination of EF and RF lenses.
I guess they have the mic. What was the total budget of your film and how you are thinking of breaking even? And where it will be available to see?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So my grant project was basically done on a shoestring budget of 20,000 US dollars. That's all I had from National Geographic. That's all you get as a level 1 grantee. And with that, we had to fit in multiple locations in India as well as Bangkok. So we really stretched our limits. We also had post-production to take care of in the same space. So it was a very, very, very tight scenario, but we tried our best to ensure that the quality is not compromised. You get a feeling of a high-value production, but in fact, it's been on a very, very minimal budget that we worked on. So both the films will be releasing very shortly on television in India. They're almost being done. Netflix, I don't know in terms of like OTT, but whoever takes it in terms of television will have their own OTT platform for it. Yeah. It will be coming on OTT as well. So for the Fading Star, the rights are with me, whereas with the Leopard film, we share the rights. So it's called a co-production, right? So since it's a co-production, each 3 parties share the rights.
Aishwarya, could we do the other questions offline? Is that okay?
Sure.
I guess you can interact with all of them over here.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming for this show. Thank you.
I'll ask Manoj to hand over a token of appreciation to Aishwarya.